Good morning, everybody. Could you all take a seat, please? This morning we have CultureWorks with us, and we have Emily Christensen and Miranda Craig. I'd like to tell you a little bit about them. Thank you, Larry. Emily is a multimedia artist and educator specializing in ceramics, calligraphy, and printmaking. And she's passionate about creating art for communities and communities of artists. With a BA International Studies in Sociology from Hope College and an MA in Middle Eastern Studies and Arabic from University of Chicago. Emily offers a global perspective on how the arts affect individuals and cultures near and far. She has 25 years of experience in youth development in Holland, Zeeland, Chicago, and Lansing through both the nonprofit sector and education sectors. In addition to teaching after school and summer arts programs in Lansing, Holland, and Chicago, and Israel, the West Bank, she served as a founding board member of 3 nonprofit organizations and served for 2 years on the board of directors at CultureWorks prior to accepting the executive director in 2017. Miranda is a multidisciplinary artist specializing in songwriting, music, recording, ceramics, and fiber arts. She believes deeply in the importance of art education as a means to empower students, build relationships, and work for justice in the community. With a BA in biology and songwriting recording from Hope College and an MDiv from Western Theological Seminary, Miranda is interested in the ways that disciplines overlap and how art is born from and pervades our ordinary, everyday lives. In addition to her role as program director at CultureWorks, Miranda coordinates and leads worship for a church in Grand Rapids, operates her own business as an independent artist, and taught biblical Hebrew last year at the Muskegon Correctional Facility through Hope College Western Seminary BA programs for inmates. Don't you wish you had this kind of energy? I'm just going to let them take it away because they have a lot in store for you. There are some guests that they have with them that they'll introduce you to as well. And thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. We're really grateful to be here today. It's a joy to have brought several current and former students as well. So you'll be able to ask them questions later. They're just amazing. I really love that Hope Church cares deeply about accessibility. It's one of the things that my husband and I were drawn to about this church. And we're just excited to share more about CultureWorks with you. I love this first photo and wanted to start with it because it shares some of the joy and playfulness of our studio, which is located over on 6th Street near River, next to those giant tower of condos. And part of the reason we landed in this current space was due to concerns about accessibility for our students, because we really want to make our programs as accessible as possible to all teens. That is because we firmly believe, as Delita Martin puts it, that art can change minds, minds can change systems, and systems can change lives. There's a lot of evidence out there supporting the transformative power of the arts on many levels, including physical, mental, social, and financial. For example, artistic and creative engagement help cardiometabolic diseases, reduce cortisol and regulate stress, support immune function, improve maternal health care, support early childhood development, increase life satisfaction, increase overall longevity, and offer a range of treatments for mental health challenges. If you're interested more in diving into the physiology behind the arts and how it impacts us on a physiological level, I'd recommend starting with this book. It's called Your Brain on Art by Susan Magsamen and Ivy Ross. I really enjoyed that and have pulled a lot out of it for our programming. But I'll just read one quote from here about how the arts affect teens in particular. According to the American Art Therapy Association, artistic expression and creative process enhance cognitive abilities, foster greater self-awareness, and help teens regulate their emotions. The arts help them with focus, problem solving, and decision-making skills, so that when presented with health choices, they make better ones, as their brains are dramatically changing during critical developmental periods. So the arts are impactful and wonderful, and we love them. We all turn to them in times of need, but the arts are really expensive. And that's why they're one of the first programs to get cut from schools when schools need to trim their budgets. How many of you, show of hands, turned to the arts during the pandemic? Perhaps you dove into a book or movies or a series, or just even enjoyed your garden more. Those ways of enveloping ourselves in aesthetics helps calm us and reduce cortisol and helps us make meaning of our world. Since 2011, CultureWorks has impacted over 6,000 teens through affordable, accessible arts programs that cultivate creativity, build community, and empower students. After noticing an increase in mental health and social health challenges facing our students in 2017, CultureWorks began tracking student mental health data and developing curriculum and projects aimed directly at supporting positive outcomes. In brief, the number of students noting chronic and debilitating anxiety and depression in their surveys or in conversations with our staff rose dramatically between 2016 and 2019. In conversations with healthcare workers and therapists, we as a staff were trying to understand these trends and why CultureWorks programming seemed to be fostering healing, stability, and growth for many of our teens. I came across the work of Surgeon General Vivek Murthy in 2019, who was raising awareness about an epidemic of loneliness here in America. Last year, he issued an advisory and laid out a new national strategy to advance social connection, because social connection is part of that healing and connection and protective against harmful impacts. Through our grant writing during that time, through our grant writing, the work we were doing was noticed by Michigan Public Radio. Cynthia Canty came out and interviewed one of our students who's pictured here. And these are photographs taken by our students in advanced art. Also, a Danish newspaper at that time picked up the story and interviewed 5 of our SAC members and wrote an article about that as well. Those are links that are available in one of those handouts that you have. Statistics from Ottawa County, the CDC, and from our own student surveys indicate that we're still in the midst of a pretty serious mental health crisis, particularly among our teens. But the good news is we seem to be on the right track at CultureWorks, thanks to our remarkable students, our resilient staff and board, and a lot of community support. Today, we're excited to introduce you to some of our current former students and share an overview of the ways in which CultureWorks programs offer long-term impact by nurturing creative engagement, prosocial skills, and professional development opportunities. So I'm going to turn it over to Miranda, and she's going to share a little bit about our Student Advisory Council.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. As Emily said, I'm Miranda Craig. Hi, it's really nice to meet all of you. I've been at CultureWorks for about a year, and one of the greatest privileges of that job has been getting to be involved with our Student Advisory Council. This group of students was established in 2016, and this is a picture of the original crew as they were getting going. And a big part of why an organization would have a student advisory council is so that teens are playing a role in guiding the organization that's serving them, so that they get to have a voice in what sorts of programs they need and what's important to them and what's going on in their lives. They play a major role in decision making in our organization, and they're sort of the backbone of what happens in our student life. Every year, we get to kick it off with a weekend-long retreat with our SAC students, which sort of provides the foundation for all of the work that we're going to do during the year, as we get to take a couple nights away and work on team building through the arts, through this really beautiful interview exercise that Emily has written, where they learn the art of asking one another good questions. And it's a time for us to share meals together. This past year, we baked bread. Turned out that was a really big hit, and students would like to do that again more often. We've heard a lot about the bread. But they also help us to make decisions about the future, our goals for the upcoming year, what we're going to be accomplishing together at CultureWorks. And then, after the retreat ends and the school year gets into full swing, we meet together every single week on Monday afternoons from 3:30 to 5:30. And we get to continue doing the work of professional development. We take field trips, we do creative projects, and organizational planning. So they learn about how our budget works. And they also made amazing artwork that was installed at Tulip Time and impacted our community more broadly. And they've made advocacy posters that you can see in the back of the room later if you're interested, about causes that they care about. It's a group of students that do a really beautiful job of caring for one another and also helping us understand who we need to be for the community. As well as our sort of weekly meetings, our SAC students also help us a lot with big events. So you can see this is last year at Juneteenth with Zoe, who made some amazing pieces that people were able to collaborate on at the event. This is a picture of Josephine, who will be sharing with us later at La Houppe doing a printing activity. And this is Avis, who just graduated this year and is a recipient of one of the Holland Zealand Community Foundation Promise scholarships. Our students also help us with some of the bigger organizational events throughout the year, not just showing up at community festivals, but helping with our annual fundraiser that happens in the fall. So that's a picture of a number of our SAC students at the end of our fall benefit a couple of years ago. And we also, these are the advocacy posters that they made. We held an art event at LJ's last spring, and they were able to share those with the community. They packed out the place. Josephine's posters sold out the first night. It was crazy and exciting and just fun to watch the ways that they're growing and able to develop as artists and as people contributing to the broader Holland community. They also get to learn about things like strategic planning, which we're in the process of right now, and nonprofit finances. We get to hang out and read over the budget and learn about how that works, and also meet with community stakeholders and supporters at our fall benefit. They're interspersed at all the tables and they're chatting with you, and then they come back and tell us about it. As fun as it is to get to tell you about our Student Advisory Council, and as much as Mondays are my favorite day of the week during this season of my life, it makes a lot more sense for you to hear about it from someone who's actually a part of that group as a student. So I'd like to introduce Oliver. Oliver's been on our advisory council for 2 years, and we love the joy and creativity that they bring to our team. They have gifts for design and composition across mediums, including fashion, interior spaces, multimedia work, botanical illustration, and printmaking. And outside of art, Oliver is also passionate about music, conspiracy theories, fashion, and poisonous plants and animals. I know, that's funny, right? They plan to attend college and pursue an art degree after high school. And we're just so grateful for the ways that they contribute to our team. So I'm gonna hand off the microphone I'm wearing, right, oh, do we have a handheld?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's hard to know to put it in the right spot.
Okay. Mute myself for a minute. Pause for just a sec.
Okay, so as Miranda said, I have been on the Student Advisory Council for 2 years, and these past 2 years have given me lots of opportunities to grow in lots of different ways, and I have a voice in the community, which I value a lot. I do appreciate being a part of an organization that deals with arts and is very, we advocate a lot for all different types of people, whether it's like with mental health awareness, diversity just in general. And I do really appreciate being a part of a organization that deals with that. So the Student Advisory Council deals with lots of things. So we deal with things like projects for the community, budgeting, different fundraisers with art that we make at the studio ourselves. And we do our best to be active in our community and support all of the people within it, and even the groups who seem to have little to no voice, we try our best to advocate for them.
You can hand it back to Miranda. You'll have a chance to ask questions of these guys at the end, so keep them in mind. You want to hand that back to Miranda? Awesome. Thank you so much, Oliver. It's good to have you here. So, there's slides. I wanted to start off sharing about our Student Advisory Council because, as I've mentioned, they've become the backbone of our organization, and because they represent a microcosm of our student body. This is an invite-only group, so we select students based on where they go to school, their experiences with education, what types of art they're interested in, their cultural backgrounds, because we want a very diverse segment of what Holland looks like in our group. Our student body has grown to be about 200 students a year that are enrolled in our after-school program, which is really the core of our programming, and over 1,800 in all of our events and workshops throughout the year. I'm sure you're all aware that adverse childhood events, or ACEs, put people at risk for long-term negative impacts to health and well-being. About 30% of young adults in Ottawa County indicate that they have experienced 4 or more ACEs in their lives, and that indicates that they're at greater risk of long-term impact. We've seen similar trends in our high school students as well. ACEs include experiences like parental divorce, physical or sexual abuse, substance abuse in the home, neglect, the death of a parent, the loss of a family member to suicide, parental incarceration, displacement or immigration, financial stress, and food scarcity. Over the past 6 years, our Student Advisory Council has supported one another through all of these experiences that I just mentioned. And that level of peer-to-peer support in a loving and creative community offers significant healing and protection from negative impacts. They love each other really well. Studies indicate that there are several protective factors in mitigating the effects of ACEs. Those include relationships with adults and family and friends, safe, equitable, and stable environments, social and civic engagement, and self-regulation through playing and interacting with peers. Those are all things we pursue on a regular basis at CultureWorks. Speaking broad, this is our last year's Student Advisory Council retreat. Speaking broadly, the past 6 years have been incredibly tough on teens. In addition to typical development and environmental stressors, they're navigating an increasingly polarized political climate while carrying the weight of international conflicts, a global pandemic, and the climate crisis. On the whole, recent health assessments indicate that they're feeling isolated and lonely at a national level and a local level. Feedback from our student surveys show that CultureWorks offer a sense of community and belonging, where students listen to, support, and advocate for one another. Our 9-week small classes are designed to nurture connection, interpersonal communication, and collaboration. It's not uncommon to see students who've only recently met huddled together, usually on the floor in the corner, working on something that they're both really excited about. So I'd love to introduce you to Abby. Don't come up here. Abby joined CultureWorks after-school classes in 2017 as a senior at Holland High during a time when she was facing challenges on multiple levels. We loved her energy, generous spirit, and work ethic so much that we created a summer internship program so we could keep her around longer. She was really indispensable that summer as we grew our summer outreach program through community-wide special events and offered valuable feedback as we developed our internship program, which has continued. Abby has a wealth of work and life experience to share, and we're excited for the ways that she's impacting our students as a model and keeping our studio running smoothly and washing our coffee pots and everything that it needs. She came back as a volunteer and was like, what can I do? And she was like, nobody ever washes your coffee pot, right? And I was like, yeah, no. So in addition to many other things.
I'm a firm believer that the coffee pot should always be clean.
So yeah, I hired her. We're just excited to have her here today. She's going to share with you about the importance of play and what she experienced at CultureWorks.
All righty. Can you hear me well? Yeah. All right. Well, hello, everyone. As you already know, my name is Abby Lopez. CultureWorks has been a part of my life since 2017. I started as a student attending weekly classes, then a student advisory council member, an intern, occasional volunteer, and now a staff member. In late 2017, I was a high school senior coming to terms with the fact that I wasn't going to graduate in the following year. I did the best I could. I really did. I was never able to take electives because there was always a class I had to make up. Throughout my high school career, I had no fun or relaxing classes. I also didn't have any friends, so there was no pros to even joining a school club. So during the school day, I was alone. I became dependent on my school social worker and the special ed teachers to give me company and a place to relax from the expectations. But there, I was bombarded with the passive pressure that I was not trying hard enough. Even my safe space was demanding me to be who I was not. Tasks, assignments, homework, projects, quizzes, you're failing this class, you're failing that class, and the ever so true, but really confusing, quote, just do your best. I would hear this every day, like chants. It sucked because this is me. This is my best. But it was never good enough for the school system. Pile that on top of my current home environment and the toxic friend group, slowly I stopped trying. It went from skipping a day or two of school to skipping weeks. It seemed like I was at a dead end and I wasn't worthy of anything. Then I was introduced to CultureWorks. CultureWorks provided me the missing piece to help me succeed, not just academically, but emotionally and socially. In a book I'm reading called Kids Who Carry Our Pain by Dr. Robert Hemfeld and Dr. Paul Warren, there's a whole chapter where they discuss the importance of play, not just for your child, but for you. I always loved drawing and writing, especially when I was 12 years old. Sonic the Hedgehog was my muse, if you would say. I had a whole wall of it. Character design, world building, and storyboarding, I loved it. However, once you're in high school, 8 hours of your day is dedicated to learning and completing tasks. Play was no longer an option. According to the book, quote, play is not the child's recreation, is not merely time spent in idle amusement. Through play and fantasy, children effectively process the world around them, perhaps in ways adults may think are foolish, empty, or even damaging. The play of children is their gateway to understanding both themselves and the outside world. Kids need an outlet, whether it's sports, theater, rocket club, anime club, or whatever. They need the time, place, and people to help them find a mold that fits. When I attended school, there was no art club. I didn't have a place that would provide me with a safe space to play the way I wanted. Well, not one that wouldn't ask for the numbers on my dad's credit card. I didn't know how to meet or talk to people. Time didn't feel real anymore. Going to that one class every week introduced me to so many new people. People were into things that I was into. It reminded me how short 2 hours, It reminded me how short 2 hours feel when you're having fun. Play is important for kids. Giving a child a chance to play out scenarios and other realities with dolls, puppets, blocks, clay, embroidery, inks, or simple pencil and paper. By letting kids play, you also give them permission to explore themselves, permission to explore their feelings. Feelings are the baseboard of every decision we make in life. They help us decide what job we want, who we choose in a lifelong partner, and what we're in the mood for brunch. I don't know about you guys, but I'm in the mood for Anna's house after this. Of course, you shouldn't let feelings dictate your life, but we should learn to listen and take responsibilities for our feelings. Now that I'm 24 years old, I believe I've improved at recognizing and listening to my feelings and emotions because of CultureWorks. It helped me build my confidence in my artistic abilities by having us show our art at the end of class and hear everyone's immediate input. It helped me with my social anxiety. I started going to school again. It showed me there are other people in the world who are genuine and care about me and my future. I can do this. I won't let the system fail me because I'm not normal. I graduated high school in 2020. I was the second in my immediate family to get an official high school diploma. As much as I loved art, I didn't consider myself an artist. Artist was a word for somebody who was a professional in the arts. It was a title that I wasn't worthy of, but my perspective has changed. During my first year of CultureWorks, I learned that artists are professionals in the art of play. Artists will use their feelings to make something, whether it's a statement for change, a release of built-up emotion, or a testimony to our time. It all started with a feeling and playing. That novel you read the other night, the painting that's in the other room, the cars you drive, and the home you go to every day are products of an artist playing. I am enough. I am an artist, and I'm not alone. Without CultureWorks, I wouldn't have the confidence to say that today. There's nothing in the world that I can say or do that can show how thankful I am for this organization. Thank you.
Next time, you get to do the whole thing, Abby. Well done. Gosh. So how did we arrive at this moment where we have the privilege of mentoring such an incredibly diverse and supportive group of creative individuals? Let's go back to the beginning. These are photos from our original space, which is next to Angeti Church, because we were launched by a group from Angeti Church. It was a gorgeous space, 4,000 square feet plus of open concept studios, split into 3 studio spaces, but with very few walls in between. So we would run 3 classes at a time, up to 45 kids at a time, plus staff and volunteers. Gorgeous, but also not conducive to learning for students who were more sensitive to sound, distractions, or overstimulation. And we heard that feedback a lot from parents. This space was also in a former Kmart parking lot. We had no access by foot or bike that was safe, and no access to green spaces for these students, so it was not ideal. Around 2016, the mission and funding of Angeti diverged from that of CultureWorks. So we were in short time without a staff, without an executive director, and without the finances to support that space. So we went to our Student Advisory Council, that beautiful group that you saw earlier, which had been formed a year earlier, and we said, hey, we have a few options here. What would you all like to do? We could shut down CultureWorks. That was obviously the worst option because a lot of our students said there weren't any other programs that they were interested in being involved in. We could do mobile programming and set up at different schools each day. We could go to Holland Public on Monday, West Ottawa on Tuesday. And they said, absolutely not, we're not interested. We need to get out of school as soon as possible. At the end of the day, it's not a safe place for us. We need to be in a space that feels like home, a space where we can meet students from other districts because those are our friends. Third option would be to do mobile programming through different partnerships with local community organizations. So that's what we did. We went for 3.5 years. We did mobile programming in 18 different spaces throughout town. These are images from Fellowship Church, which was awesome to us at that time. Outdoor Discovery Center. We went to parks. We went to Park Theater. All these places that were available for creative use. Sorry, make sure I'm not forgetting anything. we also had a storage facility, and we had a lot of stuff in my basement, and a lot of our students and staff. So we have moved 5 times in the past 6 years. All of our equipment and supplies. It's been insane, but also super fun. So a little scattered. Getting out of that original space, though, meant that we could introduce students to places they may not have been before, or places they haven't been to since they were little. Critter Barn, Outdoor Discovery Center, Holland Museum. About half of our students hadn't spent much time downtown Holland or on 8th Street. So hosting classes there opened up a new sense of belonging in places that they didn't feel at home in previously. We offered our first botanical illustration class in 2019, and that was a revelation. Over half of that class of 15, I think, was struggling with ongoing mental health challenges, and they shared that the class had an overwhelmingly positive impact on their well-being. We hadn't designed it as such, we just needed a space to teach classes, and the Hope College greenhouse offered a chance to draw botanicals from life in the dead of winter, which sounded pretty good. Since then, I've learned a great deal more about the impact of the natural world on mental health, and we've continued to offer this class on a semi-yearly basis, using outdoor spaces since the pandemic. And we really tried to get all of our classes out as much as possible, which is another reason why that studio space on 6th Street is so key. I actually laid down on the floor and cried a little bit when we found it because it's accessible to so many beautiful parks and spaces for our students. Art, much like nature, has a way of drawing us in, comforting us, lowering cortisol, focusing energy and thoughts, helping us create a sense of order. Through storytelling, theater, photography, portraiture, world building, digital art, design, and ceramics, we have the opportunity to engage with the world and with the stories of others who might have very different backgrounds and experiences than us. We practice empathy, and our capacity for cross-cultural understanding increases. Many of you know Zahabia. She's been part of our portraiture class for a couple of years, and I designed that class as a way to introduce our students to first-generation Americans who are powerful leaders in our community. And so we bring in a different leader each week, and they share about their stories. How did they get here? What's your experience of being in Holland? How can we support you as an individual while people work on their portraits? I wanted to touch on 3 other initiatives that have positively impacted mental health through creative engagement, prosocial skills, and professional development opportunities. The first is a unique class that we developed in response to growing social and mental health concerns, and it's called World Building, taught by M.H. Elder. This 9-week class tends to attract a higher percentage of neurodivergent students, or students who tend to do most of their socializing through gaming and online communities. This class was inspired by the idea that in order to create a compelling fictional universe, whether for literature, comics, or game design, it's helpful to have a foundational understanding of our own universe. So MH touches on real-world physics and astronomy, along with history, geology, and geography. Students explore questions about culture and spirituality, as well as social hierarchies, political institutions, and technology. We held our first world-building class at the Holland Museum, where we could study and learn directly from the artwork and artifacts there. Student feedback indicates that participants in this class tend to form quick and close bonds, and many have continued to spend time together outside of class, even years later. Ceramics is another highly effective tool for supporting mental health through creative engagement and expression. Clay is highly tactile and soothing to work with as a medium. It keeps your hands busy so your mind can wander a bit. And as the problem-solving centers of the brain are quiet and engaged, you're able to work through problems and think of potential solutions. Students like Josephine love to get into the zone at the wheel. You're gonna hear from her in a minute, teasing her. Additionally, while working with clay, we can wonder about human nature and about our own strength, plasticity, and fragility. The process of forming something out of clay requires that we're deeply mindful of how we approach the piece and one another, and how the clay has memory, and it can show signs of stress and warping during drying and firing, even if it looks okay while it's still wet. We've offered ceramics workshops with Children's Advocacy Center, and they remarked that their students opened up much more quickly and on a deeper level while working with clay than they did in a traditional counseling setting. Finally, I wanted to mention the Print for Advocacy project that we pursued last year in collaboration with Professor Lee Kang's screen printing class at Hope College. Our students shared that this was an empowering project through which they could raise awareness and funding for causes that they were passionate about. You can see some of their posters over there on that table. Some of them we sadly sold out of, and I need to get them back from colleges to print more. Ian, the tall one in the picture on the left, his posters sold out several iterations, several times. And I was just really proud of his development process throughout that whole semester. A lot of our students were really distraught about the activities of Ottawa Impact, and in particular, the changing of our motto as a community. And so Ian's poster, his first couple concepts were very angry and very negative, and visually impactful, but very angry and very negative. So I worked with him and just said, hey, is there a way that we could channel that same sense of anger, that same sense of advocacy into a powerful, positively impacting image? So what he came up with was a poster that reads, "Where you belong," but it's printed in multi-different colored skin tones. It's printed in rainbow. It's printed in trans colors of the flag. And it's a really beautiful, and yeah, that's all over in institutions for counseling and education right now, so I'm proud of him. Josephine, who's here with us, also did a beautiful poster focused on strength and biodiversity and strength and diversity in our community, but she used botanicals in that poster. And also, again, right, everyone loves botanicals, so who wouldn't want to hang that on their wall, but it has a powerful message of strength and diversity. So I'm excited to introduce you to Josephine. Come on up here. Josephine, we met through the Boys and Girls Club. She was pretty active at the Boys and Girls Club and spent a lot of time in their art room and volunteered with their volunteering program. She joined our Student Advisory Council in 8th grade and has taken classes with us in just about every medium. She interned with us last summer and still hangs around the studio quite a bit since it's a quiet place to study and get lost in clay. She's finishing her, or just finished, sorry, her associate's degree, woohoo, through Holland Early College in Davenport. And she's excited to attend Western Michigan in the fall to study social work, and then hopes to attend U of M for a master's in social work. She is one of 3 seniors on our Student Advisory Council who will be fully funded for college through the Promise Scholarship. We're really proud of her. So Josephine's going to talk a little bit about accessibility and opportunity.
Hello? 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 Can you hear me? So again, I started in CultureWorks when I was about in 8th grade. Very hard time in my life, as one is very troubled, or not troubled, but like experiencing a lot of changes and new emotions that you don't really know how to deal with and all of that stuff. But when I finally found Emily at the Boys and Girls Club and started attending classes and eventually joining SAC, it was so cool to have a space where like, hey, I get to make art for like free here. Yeah. I get to be around other people who have the same interests as me, who look like me, who also have the same interests in art and growing as an artist. And that was really cool, and it has been really beautiful being a part of. But as you know, I've grown through CultureWorks and doing all of this stuff, I've learned how much it has truly helped me in the long run. It is a grand part of how I've been able to cope with the stresses in my life, how I've been able to organize my life, and how to celebrate everything that I've been through and what has been, I guess, my struggle for a long time. And I cannot really hammer home enough accessibility has to do with that. It is because of the pay what you can. It is because of the extra effort to give transportation and have that sort of environment that I was able to truly thrive in an environment where I believe it was very much needed. Like it was very much needed at the time for not just me, but a lot of kids. And I don't think I would be where I am right now if I wasn't given that opportunity and that accessibility to let myself have at it at art of any kind. And again, it's been so wonderful being able to learn different art mediums and meet people like this. And just being given the opportunity of all of that stuff, just it fills you with a sense of belonging and a sense of warmth, and you really, I don't think I can go without CultureWorks. And even if I've graduated, I still go back and I still hang out with people, or I still, go in and check out how they're doing, because truly it has given me such a help in times of need and times of stress and all of that. And I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for everything that every experience I've been able to have with CultureWorks, and I wouldn't have been able to if I didn't have access and I didn't have an opening. I would have not had a chance if there was not space given for me to be in it. And yeah, I'm just very grateful. And it is because of that that I got the Promise Scholarship. It's a big deal, but it is a huge part for I feel like my professional development and how I've been able to make it through all of this stuff. But yeah, I thank you guys.
If you are unfamiliar with the Promise Scholarship through the Holland Zealand Foundation, the other great thing is it's not just funding for college, but it is full round support for students going through the college process, applications, fees, managing how your time is spent, getting your homework done, your classes. They really support their students well, which is why I'm just overwhelmed that we get such great resources for our students through that. In addition to classes and workshops, CultureWorks impacts long-term health outcomes through professional development and employment opportunities, as you've heard about from Josephine. In addition to the work we do with SAC, we offer high school and college level internships, teaching opportunities for professional artists and designers, work-study positions through CareerLine Tech Center and Hope College, and we're hoping to establish an artist in residency program in the coming year. We're committed to paying all of our staff and employees a living wage for even interns, because we believe that the work of artists is valuable and vital to a healthy community. This year, former students have served as teachers, employees, volunteers in the classroom and the studio, and on our board of directors. This over here is Vi on the far left, who graduated a few years ago from West Ottawa, and teaches all of our graphics, comics, and animation classes. So we're excited to have Vi around. Up here is Desiree, and I don't know if I can go back to slide 17, but Desiree in slide 17 was a student in the early years of CultureWorks. Super cute. She's a chemist now, full-time, and came back to volunteer in the past year. And here we have students, Jax and Josephine, and former student Ava, working on bowls for our bowl fundraiser. And Ava just joined our board of directors this year. In our classes and workshops, we encourage our instructors to teach beyond the skill, to help students engage with the world and with each other with a new sense of wonder and personal agency. Whether through storytelling, improv, painting, digital illustration, photography, or ceramics, students gain self-awareness, empathy, and confidence as they're equipped with new tools for expression and advocacy. I wanted to just thank you all at Hope Church for supporting CultureWorks this year in your budget, and for major gifts given by many of you over the past year when we were really struggling to make ends meet. It was really great to see a few of you at our bowl sale as well. We got a few bowls left from that, but just sold one of them, so ask before you take any. But yeah, we had a goal of $4,000 and we raised over that, and we have ordered our new kiln. It's a full-size kiln. We're super excited. And that was really exciting because that was a project that we conceived of during our Student Advisory Council meeting. We were looking at how can we raise funds, and that was a project that they helped us think of and execute. So really proud of that success. Grateful for Sonnet for sitting on our board of directors, and for Phil, who's come. Both Sonnet and Phil have been great with our students and have led different workshops with them, and our students call Sonnet the puppet lady and love her to death. So yeah, we have loved being a part of Hope Church, and thank you for making this space a welcoming space for, I feel like all of our students would feel welcome here, so I thank you for that. So we wanted to open it up for questions. So, yeah, come on up. I'm not answering them all.
Yes, speak on my behalf. This isn't a question, but I just want to offer thanks for repairing our pride flag. It is beautiful, and we are so appreciative of that.
Thank you, Julie. We were too thorough.
I don't know if I have a question so much. Maybe it is a question, but the notion is that art is for those who need it. And I think, what about art for those who need it but don't know they need it?
Yeah.
I think it's universal, and just would like your comment on that. That it's for more than those who might obviously think they need it, but it's for more than that.
Yeah, we get quite a few references from area therapists, school counselors, even from juvenile court system this year, of students who just need a place. Not necessarily artistic, not necessarily creatively minded, but they need a place to be in a positive setting and to develop different skills. And they come and they do thrive, right? They learn, and we get positive feedback from them. We also have students who come along with friends, and so students who want to go into biology. You'll see on the list of quotes and stats, students who want to know they want to be an engineer someday. All of the fields need art, right? If you're going to be an engineer, it's really helpful if you can at least sketch out an idea of what you're thinking. It's really good that you can work collaboratively with a team in pretty much any setting in a workforce. It's really good that you can think creatively and problem solve. So those are all tangible skills you learn in arts.
Yeah. I think lunchroom visits get some of those kids too.
But I just wanted to add, one of the things that I love about CultureWorks is with the pay what you can afford, it's not just for like low income kids. It's about a third of the students, their families pay the full recommended price, about a third pay a partial, and about a third are free. And so it's not just it hits a variety of households, instead of being like a income separated thing. And also the way we're present at community events like the International Festival, Pride, it gives just moments for kids to do something free in just a moment at an event, and it's so much fun to see the ways we get to do that.
Yeah. If I could add too, just that diversity piece is super important to the success of long-term for students. I don't know if you listened to The Hidden Brain. Shakar Vedantam did a beautiful interview about a year and a half ago with an economist who looked at long-term financial success of people who are lower resourced as kids. And what they found was that it wasn't just having access to resources, so like having access to an after-school program, but it was having access to relationships with people of a different social class from you. And with that, you're learning new skills, you're intermingling with peers and building relationships with people who are going to advocate for you and look out for you later and help you in processes that you don't know about. The people who are perhaps in a higher social level are learning about you, right? They're going to be lawyers and doctors maybe someday. They're going to advocate for you later on because they know you, right, as a friend. So it's just this beautiful intermingling of people that provides help for everyone involved in different ways. So we love that, yeah, it's not just reaching kids at a certain socioeconomic level, but it's really providing that support group that we all need. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm Pat Van Wylen, and my question, well, first a comment. I've seen you working. We live downtown, and I see you in the green space at times in the summer, and it's really fun just to see that activity. So it's great that you're there. I also walk a lot around the downtown, and I've seen where your new CultureWorks space is. Is that where you're putting in 200 people on one Monday, or?
So yeah, per year. So typically on a weekly basis, we have about 50 spread throughout the week. Yeah, they're not there every day.
Okay, so,
Yep.
so you have after school, just small groups come into that CultureWorks space, and
Yes.
your kiln will fit in there and all of that? Yep.
It's
Wonderful.
pretty tight. The tricky part is we're trying to run a professional printmaking studio and a professional ceramic studio in the same small space. It's not a good idea for either of those programs to be meeting the other one. But we're, it's where we are right now. It's a beautiful space, a beautiful location, and it's what we've been given. So we're making do. We've got some equipment still in storage, and yeah, figure it out.
Hi, I'm Ginny, and I have a question actually. I heard you say that the entrance into this group is by invitation only. So I wonder how you decide who to invite and who not to invite, and what if you have kids that, as you mentioned, come along with friends? What do you do?
No, it's good. Do you want to speak to that? Sorry. Oh, you don't have a.
I can speak whatever you want me to.
Not you.
So our student advisory council is for students by invitation only, although a lot of the time some of them do bring friends
ask.
to that class. Yes. But our general classes, most of the days of the week, anyone can sign up and show up to those classes. So the goal is to make things as accessible and open to as many students as possible. Right? So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're offering classes that are open to the entire community, sometimes multiple classes on one of those days. We'll put one class on one side of the studio and one class on the other side of the studio. And then as we meet students in those classes and we notice who is making a really positive environment for their peers, or who seems like they would really benefit from having more intentional mentorship on Mondays, those students are the ones that we invite to apply for our student advisory council, and they come on Mondays. And so because there's this really high degree of trust with those students, if they do decide to bring a friend on Mondays, usually they make a really good decision about who they're inviting to come and help us with things, which is also great.
My name is Roseanne. We went to your pottery soup event, and it was just amazing. It must have been affecting our cortisol levels, because we were just like, whoa. But your model is so magical. My question is, are you being asked by other communities to tell them more about it? Because certainly this is something that if our world would be a better place if it spread way beyond Holland, Michigan.
Yeah, we have had interest. We have students driving as far as from Spring Lake and from Saugatuck to our program. So we have been asked, would you please think about expanding into Zeeland? Would you think about expanding into North Ottawa? We would love that, but we've been pretty strapped, and we've moved, as I said, 5 times over the past 6 years. So we've been busy. I think that we are at a point now in stability and in capacity building that we could expand. pretty rapidly with funding. So we're excited about that potential. We'd love to get into Zealand. There is nothing in the visual arts offered in Zealand after school that I'm aware of. And there is even greater need there if you look at the ALICE levels in Zealand than there is in Holland. So we'd love to. We would love to put a ceramics studio there because, again, it's not offered in that area. We have ceramics at the Holland Area Arts Council for members. I would love to be able to offer a membership studio in Zealand so that other artists and community members would have access to studio space there, as well as our students, of course. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, Emily mentioned ALICE. If you don't know what that is, that's asset limited, income constrained, employed. So it's folks who are not sort of hitting the bar for being under the poverty level, but they also don't have the additional financial means to pay for things like arts programming after school. They're people who really benefit from a pay what you can afford model, even though they're working, but they don't have that expendable income.
Hi, I'm Dawn. This is years ago at a retirement party for a choir director who approached the people who had come to celebrate him and said, "Do you have music in your life?" And so it was affirming for him and reflective for me to say yes, and here's where and why. So are you able to track with your graduates? Are art still an essential part of their lives, and is it being woven into what they're choosing? Not that you're going to be an artist, but as an engineer, this is how I'm folding art into what's going on.
Yeah, it's been pretty exciting to see. I mentioned the chemist, Desiree, who came back as a volunteer this year. She's really into textile art and knitting, crocheting, has made a beautiful business of that. So yeah, we do see that people tend to continue to explore. Sorry, am I quiet?
They hang on to what
Yes, they hang on to what they've gained. I would say that's it. That's all I'll say. One of the things that I'm excited about with having Ava on our board of directors as a former student, she, again, was part of that initial student advisory council. She knows a lot of those students still from that period. So I'm going to put her on a task force of reaching out to alumni. We don't have a good system for that yet, and establishing like a database of support and just interest in them.
Do you want to touch on the whole idea of transportation?
Yeah.
That's a big part of what you're talking about.
Yeah, transportation. It is a really cool thing. You want to say it?
Yeah, so we provide transportation from the local public schools to CultureWorks after school gets out during the school year. And we provide transportation home as well. So over the past year, I've been picking up students from school and driving them home probably 3 or 4 days a week. Like there are students at multiple different schools that need rides, or it just would not be possible for them to make it to classes, or they wouldn't be able to get a ride home afterwards. There was even one student who, that's part of why she was taking classes with us. She wanted to play sports, and they did not have any transportation options available to her. And so she ended up with us instead. So as we talk about accessibility of programming, one of those big limiting factors is if you don't have a parent around with a car, or you don't have a friend who's taking a class and their parent is willing to drive you, you really need someone with a vehicle to get you back and forth, because the Max bus system, the way that it is sort of routed, doesn't come close enough to our studio, or it's just such a long ride that students are not going to be able to make it on time after school if they ride the bus.
Yeah. And really, transportation has been really key for building relationships. I would not know Josephine nearly as well as if I hadn't spent a couple afternoons a week driving her to programs. I wouldn't know Abby nearly as well if I hadn't picked her up after school. Those conversations after school are debriefing, talking about future, talking about emotions, talking about relationships at home and at school. Super important stuff that happens in those cars. So we're just really grateful for that time. I loved picking up Josephine because every time, literally every time she got in the car, she would look at me and say, "Emily, how are you today?" And she really meant it. Like this is in 8th grade. Emily, how are you today? And it was such a gift to have her every day in my car.
Thank you. Wow. I am really so impressed with all that you're doing. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming today. A couple announcements. This is our last session, official session for the 23-24 year, except in June, on June 30th, which will again be a Pizza Sunday, and I'll have a few words to say about that in a moment. But on June 30th, which is, like I say, a Pizza Sunday, we will do the General Synod review. As some of you know, the restructure report is going to General Synod in the month of June. So on June 30th, we will have the current General Synod President, Judy Nelson, and our Hope Church members, Dan Griswold and Larry Schuyler, with Gordon moderating the panel to talk about what happened with the restructure report and what happened at General Synod. So that'll be June 30th. And yes, Pizza Sunday in a few moments after I make another short announcement. This room needs to be transformed, as you know, into 3 rows of 5 tables each with 8 chairs around each table. Okay, 3 rows, 5 tables each, 8 chairs around each table. I'll ask you to do that in a moment, but first I want to thank a few people who have just been amazing this year. And one of them is Ken Chamberlain over here, our AV technician. He has made sure that all of these slides work every week, and he sees that live streaming happens and the recordings happen and they go on the website. Thank you, Ken. We are so thankful for your presence every week. And as you can tell, Judy Parr, one of our adult ed members, helps every week with Ken. And Bruce Tenhaken, who's back here, sets this up every week, takes care of details, makes sure that handouts are also available, works with the office staff, Sam and now Amber, who have also assisted and sees that publicity gets done, etc. We are very thankful. And I work with a great team of people that I want to name. Jim Brownson, Bob Lydens, who you see every week moving the mic around, which is wonderful, and doing presentations, and David Myers, who isn't able to be here this week, Judy Parr, Elizabeth Vanderlei, Judy Vanderwilt, Eloise Van Heest, you know, is retiring this year. And of course, Pastor Gordon serves as our staff consultant as well. And I want to thank all of you who show up every week, make fascinating comments, and ask very intriguing questions. We tell all of our presenters, this audience will not be quiet. And they will ask you the most fascinating questions. So thank you. Thank you all. And now please, 3 rows of 5 tables each with 8 chairs around each one. That'd be great. Thank you.